Engaging with interesting people from a variety of industries and learning what traits they use to get ahead.
This is The Industry, What We Know.
Broadcasting from whatever space they could find after tracking down their guests.
Damon and Lee.
So, Janet, with Capture the Market, how important is video for a property?
I think it's essential to your web presence. If you give the audience video, they're going to watch it.
Damon, how often did you have video on your properties? And would you have liked to have had video on your properties? Do you think it would have made a big difference for you?
Yeah, I think it would have. We didn't really get to do it a lot, though, because we never had any money.
But I think Capture the Market's come up with a solution for that, haven't you?
We do have a solution for folks just like you. We have our CTM video app, and makes it so you have the content that is relevant to your community or your brand or your training program, whatever it is. And we make it...
Is it easy to use?
It's so simple and so easy to use. You capture the footage, it comes directly to us, and we do the hard part, the editing, and then we distribute it out for you. You can get more information about it at our website, capturethemarket.com.
How much does something like that cost somebody?
You can have one video for as low as $500. So it gives, I think the app is one way you get your user generated content, but you also give the opportunity for some people that are really creative out there to come up with unique and clever things that's great content to have out on the web for your online presence that gives people a better view of who you are.
Well, and you can integrate those into your Facebook marketing as well, because from what I've read, video is sort of the new face of Facebook.
It is.
Pictures are sort of going by the wayside. Video is
There's going to
key.
be more and more video and different types. And I think some people think, well, I don't know how to do that. The app makes it easy.
So people can go to capturethemarket.com and check it out?
Yes, you can learn more about the CTM video app and Capture the Market at capturethemarket.com.
And now, The Industry, What We Know. Exclusive interview.
Well, today we are sitting here at the Palazzo Hotel in wonderful Las Vegas, Nevada.
Because we're fancy like that.
We are fancy. And we have a great view of the Treasure Island Hotel and a guest with us today.
We do. We do have a guest.
We do have a guest. Welcome, Kelly Swanson.
Nice to be here. It's good to have a guest on your show.
It is.
As opposed to no guest.
Yeah.
Well, when there's no guest, it becomes... Well, when there's no guest, we call Nina the pet psychic. And that's pretty, So...
Draining.
I'm not going to go through your whole bio because we'll talk a little bit about you prior to sending off people into our little interview here. But I want to say that we had lunch a little while ago and some pretty interesting conversation about storytelling, which is kind of what your niche is, where you're finding great success.
Great. Define great.
I feel like we're in the Borat movie. Great success. High five.
High five. Go, Kelly.
Here, go
Kelly.
ahead, Damon. Take
No,
over.
no.
Go ahead.
No,
Forget it.
no.
I
Forget
thought
it.
that was very good.
I thought it was funny. Great success.
Carving out a niche. I didn't know I had a niche. We're good.
Well,
Keep it on.
I think you have a niche. I think you have a
I'm
niche.
working it. You're right. It's my thing.
It is your thing. And
is.
so just to reiterate how we got here. A few
By
years
plan.
ago, I was out here in Vegas. I came to the National Speakers Association Laugh Lab, and I heard Kelly speak. I don't think you know this, so
No.
listen up.
I'm about to get an education, everybody.
There might be tears.
I'm going to
might be.
learn.
Because the Laugh Lab was 3 days or 2.5 days. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. And Kelly was, I think, nearly the last speaker that they had come up to demonstrate what they do in terms of bringing comedy and laughter to your presentation. And while she did her presentation, she told a story. And her story was so captivating and so interesting and compelling that you had a room of probably 90 speakers and aspiring speakers who stopped breathing and just listened and held on every word she was saying. And at the end, she was the only speaker who got a standing ovation for the entire program. So I, of course, thought, wow, that's what I want to be able to do. I want to be able to make people hold their breath and hang on their words. So I guess maybe it was the next year or maybe a year after, Philadelphia National Speaker Association annual conference. They're kind of doing a mini breakout session for comedy. And Kelly is there again. And so ask for an autograph on a piece of paper so I can put it in her book, to Who Hijacked My Fairy Tale. And so she's looking at me like I'm all kind of crazy, but she signs it. So of course I lost that piece of paper. But then a few years go by and there's an opportunity to work with the city of Las Vegas to get them a speaker. And I immediately think of Kelly. Now, it's not like we've ever had a conversation or anything like that. So Kelly's out here in Vegas to speak at the City of Las Vegas annual Values Conference, which she will be doing. And we came out here to interview her because I wanted to know, how do you get an audience to hold their breath?
You flash them.
It's
Teasing.
that simple. What if you're a
Teasing.
guy?
Huh?
What if you're a guy? That
I'm
doesn't work.
teasing. I'll laugh.
I love it.
So how do you get an audience to hold their breath?
What a question out the gate.
Okay, let's
You
back
don't even warm up, do you?
Let's back
I
up.
did. I just did a whole entire introduction.
Well, let's back up before we get to that question because it's a very good question.
And I
but,
can answer it, but what do you want to back
But
up?
let's run through our paces here. So when Lee comes to me and pitches this idea, we sit down at the computer and she starts playing an excerpt from.
Oh, yeah, I played one of your video clips.
Your video, and all I'm hearing is the audio because I'm sitting on the other side of the table. And you were telling a story about a painting on velvet.
Oh, that's right.
And so when it's, and I'm just literally at first I'm working, I'm typing on my own laptop.
He's not paying attention.
But that's sort of how I am anyway. I'm always kind of going. And so I stopped and I just started listening, which is kind of back to what Lee was saying. So when it's over, I'm laughing my ass off. And I said to Lee, I would love to know if she has that painting. And Lee dies laughing. She's like, that's not a real story. And I said, are you sure? Really?
I don't know. Maybe.
And so
maybe
then
not.
she says, well, I don't know. I just assumed that maybe it was made up because it's a really good story. And so I said, well, when we meet her, I'm going to ask, is that story made up?
It is made up. Well, it's true, except for the parts I made up.
Do you have a painting?
Such a...
Do you have the painting on the velvet?
I think she needs to say that one more time because that was really
No, it
that
is
was
a true
good.
story,
I mean, it was
except for
really...
the parts that I make up.
Yeah.
I will tell you, let's just put it this way. It is based on a true story.
Has there
In your attic, is there a painting
of
on velvet?
Of your naked mother?
No. See,
So
you don't want to know.
disappointed.
I know. You shouldn't have
I
asked.
told
It's
you.
I
the
almost
magic.
didn't tell you.
It's the magic.
It's the magic.
No, it really is the magic though. But that's the stuff.
Because I have a visualization
I
all in
know,
my
right?
head, right?
I know. Well,
but-
let me tell you though, it is based on a true story.
I believe
Was
that.
it a paid by
So-
number?
Huh? No.
Wasn't it?
No, but it is based on a true story, and that's the whole concept of my Pride's Hollow, my town. Is I'll take you there, and I'm kind of combining fiction with nonfiction, sort of like Garrison Keillor's Lake Wobegon. I'm doing something really weird because to me, the people and they're real. The town is real, and they talk to me, and they're my neighbors, and try to tell me that they're not real. And I know that sounds strange,
No.
but anyway. So there you go. But I do like Mama being painted on black velvet for Daddy for Christmas.
It's the best story. And for those of you listening, if you have not heard it, how do they hear it?
They're probably on YouTube. There are a lot of videos on my website, so they can just go to kellyswanson.net. Now, one of my favorites is 4 motivational speakers and a waitress named Star. That is one of my all-time favorites, and that's on the homepage of my website.
I haven't looked at that one.
Oh, sorry. Sorry to totally. Yeah, that's one of. I wrote that for speakers, and so that's one of my favorites.
Have you ever thought about doing book readings? Narrations for books.
No, but hey, if I can make some money, I'll look into it.
I was,
Well, voiceovers, they tend to not look for accents like mine, such pronounced accents. I took a class in acting class. I wasn't very good. And they did a little bit on commercials. And so they would work with you and they'd put you in front of agents and you could, try for voiceover work. And they couldn't even work with me. They're like, we can't get that accent out of you. So it works for storytelling, but I'm not so sure. But anyway, good to know because I'm always looking to make an extra buck. So if I read somebody's book, y'all just let me know. I'll read y'all book for y'all.
Have you ever seen the movie Sordid Lives?
No. Should I?
Yes.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
It's on my list. I got to speak tomorrow.
Okay.
Day after?
Day after.
Okay, wait, Monday. I'll be gone.
On
day after.
Netflix.
Okay.
You,
Oh, wait, somebody just told me about that.
Netflix?
No, Sordid Lies. No, somebody just told me to watch that. Somebody
Okay.
else did.
As I'm listening to your story, all that's flashing through my head is Sordid Lives. And I've been introduced to the guy that wrote that movie.
Get out.
And he's a really funny guy, and he's from a little small town in Texas, and he writes based on these characters that he knew growing up. And that's what your story really evoked for me.
I thought they were, in the beginning, when I was little or older or whatever, I thought they were about nothing. It never occurred to me that I would do anything with them or even publish them, because they're about nothing. They're about Mama getting painted on black velvet. They're about Bitsy marching through town in a string bikini and white pumps. It's Crazy Man Harry sitting on the corner of Route 29 in that rusty old lawn chair with that one strap that's dragging the ground.
So did you write these when you were younger?
Have you written anything new? Do you write frequently?
Yes.
New stories all the time?
Yes. Babette Bernadette just was born in the past 6 months. And some of them I go after and try to create. I'm looking for a point that I need a story to illustrate, and I chew on it. As I say, I walk around, and others just wake me up in the middle of the night. And they say, tell my story. And sometimes I just sit back and let them go. That's why I work better at a keyboard than a piece of paper, because they just come out, and then I look back and go, wow, I did not know that was going to turn out that way. And it's cool. It reminds me kind of Gilmore Girls. If you ever watched Gilmore Girls, the people in that town.
Right.
I kept watching it. I loved that, and I thought, wow, I think it's kind of like My Pride's Hollow. These quirky characters who are always redeeming. You think you're making fun of them, but they always turn out to be neat characters. That's my husband says it's like Mayberry, but I never watched Mayberry growing up. I know, shame, but
No. I don't think those people liked each other. That's what I heard. That they didn't even like each other.
like in real life. I don't know. I met Thelma Lou. I got to speak in Mount Airy, and Thelma Lou was in the audience.
Really?
Isn't that cool?
That is very cool.
So as a motivational speaker,
Yeah.
storyteller,
Comedian, author, whatever gets me
author.
booked.
Right. Coach, trainer,
Mom,
wife.
neighbor.
How did you get all those titles?
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know. That's a hard question to ask. I gave them to myself. Well, people say, how did you become a motivational speaker? And I'm like, I just had some space on my card and I typed it in. I think tomorrow I'll be a life coach. Poof. No. And I say all those things because just to say speaker, when people see my thing, they're like, oh, that was great. That they don't really know what to even call it. It's like a speech. It's like a show. It's stories. It's comedy. It's, what do we call this? It started, it started as nothing. It was this town I created. I was a kid. I'd write the stories and had no thought that it would go anywhere. It was just a hobby. And I would tell stories at family reunions. And I would...
Where did you grow up?
Georgia.
In Georgia.
And then in North Carolina. But Georgia for the most part. And so I would, get up and tell stories at family reunions. And they'd be like, Kelly, tell a story. Or at least that's what I heard. I think it was more like, oh, Lord, she's going to tell us another story. Get a drink. That's going to last a while. But so I did that forever, which morphed into being, I thought, well, maybe I am a writer. Sometimes we think, oh, I'm not a writer because nobody told me I was.
Right.
And then somebody says, no, you're a writer, and you just kind of own it. And, well, okay, I guess I'm a writer then. So then it became a writer, and I majored in English, blah, blah, blah. Again, never thought I would do anything with it.
So what's your story? And what's different about your story than your character's story?
Oh, well, they're meshed. I show up in some of the characters, like Aunt Vernetta, who there's not a body part on her, hadn't been tucked, sucked, plucked, tweezed, shifted, or lifted at one time or another. There's a lot of similarities there. When I'm doing a program, on one side of the stage, I'm taking you to Pride's Hollow. And then on the other side of the stage, I'm telling you how I got to Pride's Hollow. And that I was this picked on, bullied kid who had this thing I could do and never trusted it and never owned it. And so my own personal story is about being the weird one. I talk about tucking my son into bed one night, and he asked me why zebras have stripes. And I said, well, so they'll blend into the pack. He's like, it's not called a pack, it's called a herd. I was like, be quiet, I'm telling a story. And I said, you don't want to blend in because a predator will find you and he'll eat you. And I said, you don't want to be the pink zebra because they'll get you. And I should know because I was the pink zebra. I didn't look like I talk a lot about fairy tales because I didn't look like the princess. I looked like androgynous Pat from Saturday Night Live.
No, you don't. Just for the record, you don't look like that today.
Well, no, I don't today. But we're going all the way
We're
back.
going way back.
But a lot of us are still walking around with that story of who we were then, and it's still a recurring theme of never feeling good enough, never feeling like I fit into a group, always breaking the rules, not looking like the others. And I still fight that, even as an adult, even in my business. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, so when you're coming in to do a motivational speech, like you are for the city tomorrow, how do you bring that to your audience?
Bring what?
Bring that story and deliver it to your audience.
Well, I just start at the beginning. I bring them in chunks. I tell them who I am. Now I show them. Tomorrow I actually talk to myself in the mirror when I open up the speech. So they see me talking to myself, and I'm saying all the things that are vulnerable. And, oh, gosh, they're not going to like this. And is my butt too big? And, funny stuff. And, oh, gosh, I drew on my eyebrows, and I drew this one on crooked. Now I'm going to walk around all day looking suspicious. These just raw, vulnerable. And a lot of speakers won't do that. I think that's what makes me different, is I just put that fear out there right there in the room. And so they connect to me in that vulnerability, and I become one of them, not somebody up high on a platform. So I don't know really. And I talk about where I'm from. I just tell stories from my real life. And then eventually it weaves into the fact that part of my real life was creating this town and having this thing I could do that even as an adult in business, everybody said was weird. They're not going to buy it. Corporate won't buy it. It's too weird. It won't sell. So even as an adult, I fell in that trap of burying them all and trying to be like everybody else. But I'm back.
So let's talk about this compelling story for business.
Mm-hmm.
You wrote a blog recently about the 3 stories a speaker should be telling. The about me story, the where I am story, and the audience story. Is that just for speakers, or could that be for salespeople or customer service people?
Oh, it could be for anybody because, speakers were the ones who came to me first. That was just a natural evolution was, hey, we want to know how you do what you do. And not everybody can relate to speakers. It's the top 5 fears, getting up in front of people and speaking. But we have a lot of similarities. Our job is to come in and have an impact on people and influence and motivate them to want to change, to deal with stress, to whatever it is. Our job is to impact and influence. And it's to get people on board. And when you look at it that way, then I don't think I'm so different from a lot of people out here in life. I think we're all salespeople in a sense, if I can use that word, because we all want to impact and influence somebody else, whether it's our boss, whether it's our coworkers, whether it's our kid to clean up his room. We all want to influence, whether we're raising awareness for a nonprofit, whatever it is, we all want to have impact and influence over somebody else. I've just learned as a motivational speaker, when I'm hired to come in and cheer everybody up, help them deal with stress and change, that the path to do that is through story. And through that has bubbled up just from doing it on the streets, as I say. Well, I didn't do it on the street, but, don't go there. In front of an audience, the way I do it is by sharing my story, by wrapping my message in story, and by telling their story. So that's where the 3 stories come into play. And I tell speakers and anybody trying to impact and influence somebody else through story, you need the about me story, you need the message or brand story. I change it up depending on who's using story. And you need your customer story. And when you can combine all 3, then you have buy-in and engagement. So
what would a customer story look like or sound like?
Oh, a testimonial would be a great example. Every testimonial out there in business is a customer story. It's an example of a happy customer. It's a story of the customer using your product or your service. That would be one of those. But stories are also used in sales. Well, you can use a testimonial in sales as well. So you can tell a story about somebody who had a problem that mirrors your potential buyer. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so then that would be, it's any story where the character's conflict mirrors the conflict in the person, your audience or your listener.
Let's talk about data a little bit, because as you know, or you may or may not know, people listening, Dame and I are certified True Colors facilitators. And one of the personalities, and you probably get these people in your audiences, are those people who want to hear the data. They want to hear the hard line facts, give them all the information, and they can start thinking about it. When I think about those people hearing the word story, I think about people going, I don't care about feelings. I just want the rawness. I just want to see the numbers. So how do you do what you do and reach not just those people, but the traditional people or the feeling people and the people who want to see some excitement or have a good time?
Well, as speakers, we could only do what we do. You know, I can't go up there and be somebody else. I can't change my style. I got to be totally authentic to me. And sometimes, yeah, that's going to freak out your right brain people. And while yes, some people are data figured, give me the information, and some may just not like it at all. However, I'm going to push back just a little bit because I'm wondering out loud here, which is always dangerous, but I'm wondering if data people, wouldn't you say that, because y'all are trainers, wouldn't you say they still need an illustration? Can you just go say, this is the data and walk away? I mean, when you train people, do you give them an example? Do you teach them with an example or an illustration or another context that they can compare this to? Or do you simply go say, this is it, and you're done?
I think especially those people like the story.
You like the story?
Yeah.
Well, but I'm saying you might be tripped up on the word story.
Oh, well, maybe.
Because some people will say, it's an example. Give me an example of what you're talking about. And that's a story. So sometimes I think the word story can wig people out.
Be too frou-frou.
Now, some of them may not want to hear Babette Bernadette, which is my most recent story about the guidance counselor. But you would be surprised because everybody has a soul.
Yeah.
And everybody has a human experience. And so maybe they want the data. I don't know. I don't really know how to answer your question because I'm not sure even those data people don't want an explanation or an illustration. They may not want a poem.
Well, and don't forget that those people are, 15% of the population, something on that
Well, you're
order.
one of those people, so...
Well, that's why I'm saying this. I mean, when you're that small in the population, it's very easy to be marginalized.
But,
And
okay.
And so
Sure.
I think that there are some stories that you're going to hear that really resonate with you as an individual. And, I mean...
I want to add, can I add to that too?
Sure.
Do y'all care? I think sometimes we put story in one camp and we put data in the other. And never and don't hear me say that the data is not important because it is
Right.
necessary.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But many speakers see story as something separate from content. That, I don't have time to tell stories, that we'll tack one on at the end. I don't have time to tell stories all day. My client wants action. They want action steps. They want content. And they think, well, I'm just not that kind of speaker. But science has proven that we don't do anything without first having an image. We don't act without a visual. Therefore, our thoughts are not stored as words. They're not stored as data. They're stored as images. And science doesn't differentiate for left brain or right brain people. It says our thoughts are stored as images. And therefore, if that's true, then data alone has no impact. It's not emotional. It's not an image. They're words. And it needs story or an illustration or an anecdote or an example, for lack of a better word. It needs story to wrap data. And then it's presented in a way that now we can understand it, internalize it, access it, and act on it. So I think the two are really synonymous. We just hear story and we get tripped up on that word because we don't like writing stories. And that throws you off if you're a bank teller. How are you supposed to write stories? So I get it.
So speaking of helping people, do you think everyone has a compelling story that needs to be told or should be told?
Okay, well now, is it going to get 1 million hits on YouTube? Maybe not. Is it going to be a story that Lifetime's going to want to do? Maybe not. I mean, there are some people for entertainment's sake who are looking for a story that's scintillating and fascinating. But for the sake of story being used as a tool, yes, everybody's got a compelling story, because a compelling story is, and you get this all the time when you listen to your friends and you listen to other people tell stories. They don't have to be these fascinating stories. We connect to your human experience. And I used to think as a speaker that, because I haven't won the Olympics, or I haven't been caught on fire, or haven't landed in the snow and had to eat my friends, then I don't have a compelling story. But I'm going to tell you what, not all of us can connect to the person who's been through that experience. Right. Sometimes it's just a story about being a mom and trying to get through the day and doing it all and feeling like you're invisible and you lost sight of who you were a long time ago. And I'm going to tell you, if there's somebody in that audience who can connect to the conflict in that main character in that story, you've got a compelling story. Remember what I didn't even tell you. It's not about whether a story's good. Story's a tool to teach and to impact and influence. And if it's done well and told right, then it serves its purpose and will therefore be compelling. As long as you don't ramble. I mean, there is such a thing as a good story and that doesn't go anywhere.
Right. What methods have you used other than speaking and book that you've used or would suggest people use to either start telling their story or to tell their story?
Okay. Well, it depends on where your touch points are with people. You can tell your story if you're in leadership and you're in a team meeting. You can start there.
So let's say you're dealing with a team lead. Okay, so somebody you're just now got a promotion or sort of a promotion, and you're supposed to go in and do a presentation or talk to your team, and you want to be able to connect with them. With
Correct.
Telling the story of how you got there.
Well, the first thing I would ask, because story's a tool, if I were to come help somebody said, I'm going to go in my team meeting and I want a good story to tell. Well, the first thing I'm going to say is, well, what are you trying to accomplish in your meeting? Is there a problem and you need to illustrate the problem? Is there a value in your company that people aren't living out and you need a story around that? Story is a tool. So my first thing would be, what is your intent in front of that group of people? What is it you want to make them feel? And very good point. Let's just say, kind of tagging on what you said, let's just say you're a new manager. And let's just say you're new in this team and they don't like you. Okay? You said something that made me think of you want to connect with them, and let's just say there's a negative story about you going around or whatever. You can tell a story about who you are, and it's here's the key. It's not what you've done or achieved that makes a good story. It's where you failed. That's when we really connect to somebody, is when we can see them as real and flawed. So, I mean, there could be, you could be a new CEO going in front of your company and you want everybody to know you, and you just talk about the first time you had your first job and how much you've messed up, and because that's when we start to connect. I had a speaker friend who once said, come see me speak and tell me how my stories are. She said, I feel like I'm not connecting with my audience. So I went to go see her speak, and she was right. She wasn't connecting because she was perfect. And everything was so polished, and she looked good. And I said, you look great, and there's nothing wrong with looking great, trust me, and being skinny and having it all together, but they can't connect to that because most people don't feel perfect. I said, tell them where you've been. Tell them what you've been through. You've got a fascinating life story. You weren't always like this. Go there, and then they can see themselves in you and think, well, if she can do it, so can I. I've just found that many people do not connect to perfect, polished people. And so our stories should take away that polish a little bit. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
I'm kind of rambling. I'm not sure I've had that question
not
before.
At all. So back to my original question.
Sorry, I'm not good at answering the question as you asked.
As I look over at Damon.
And as I smile. I think the pump is now primed. The water's flowing.
Prime for what? Is this where we grab hands and sing Kumbaya? I'll ask me to get naked.
What do you think it is that allows you to...
Okay. Oh, that question, yeah.
To have an audience hold their breath?
Number one, I work my butt off on every word and every story. It is music to me. It is a craft. I don't wing it. I work on it. I labor over every word, over every sentence, over the rhythm. Not everybody's going to go to the lengths that I will go to. Sorry, it's just my thing. It's like music. It really is. Every note matters. Every word matters where it's put. So I am in control. I know where the laugh's going to come in. That's one piece of it. Number two, I'm not quite there all the way, but I've learned how to tell a story like it's a conversation, not like I'm performing above your heads, but that I'm looking at you and I'm having this and I'm anticipating what you're thinking and I'm responding in the story. I know, right? Like we do naturally. Mm-hmm. So that's what enabled. I get so many people who go, I don't understand why I felt like you were looking right at me. Another thing I do is I really put myself in the moment. Many speakers or storytellers or anybody telling a story will go outside of it and they'll go tell you about it and they're removed. I go back in it and feel it again and I let you see me feel it. And I have the moment and the emotion again. I'm not removed from, I say the further we remove ourselves from a story, the further our audience is removing from the story. I also try to write stories the way I talk. Often, and this is a big mistake that many of us make, and I did too, we write a story and we sit down to write like we write, like you're writing an article. A story to be read is not the same as a story to be told. They're a completely different set of skills. So I'll write a story and I'm practicing the way I tell it as I write it. Does that make sense? And that was a big aha for me. Much easier to do when you... Sometimes my stories, they're not even, if you looked at them on paper, they wouldn't make sense because they can be, now I can write them in such a fragmented way. I write them the way we talk.
Do you ever take your phone up as you're driving along and just start talking, telling a story, practicing?
Yes. Oh gosh, that's what I do all the time because I memorize it. I'm heavy in scripting, but I'll have moments to dance around in the story. So even though there's a tight script, if I think of a line, I also act it out. Anywhere I can act out the story. And not huge, grand gestures. It can be the smallest sway when you're talking about, I don't know, it's hard to explain. And I don't plan my gestures. I just feel it when I tell the story.
Because you're back in the moment.
Because I'm back in the moment. I'm fully present and looking around. And my details, that's another one. I paint the picture for you. I give you the details. People say, oh my gosh, I can see that. Yes, it's because I chose the words that you can see. Sometimes somebody sent me a story recently and they said, I felt a whirlwind of emotions. And I said, stop. We can't see that. You felt a whirlwind of emotions? That to me, I can't see that. Tell me you could hear the clock ticking above everything else and that the room felt like it was spinning around you and that you could smell the macaroni and cheese on the stove burning when your mother sat down to tell you that your brother had died. See, those a lot of times we don't use the details. We'll say it was hot. No, don't tell me it was hot. Say it was 200 degrees and everybody still had on wool sweaters. That's a bit from one of my stories.
Don't bury mother with that
mink stole on.
So, what do you...
I knew I could count on you.
Right. What do you want to be doing with the ability to teach people or train people or guide people or what, use insert word here, to understand and relate and embrace the impact that storytelling is currently having in the business world?
Would you ask me what I want to be doing?
Yes.
How does that play in? And let me say this because it's interesting. I think out loud a lot. The first thing I want to do is to be doing it. I want to be a master of my craft. And I want people to come to me and say, I want to know how to do it because you're doing it. I want to have that credibility. I never said I don't ever want to talk people into, I want people to come to me because they've seen my work and they want to know how I do it. My first love is for the stage. So that will always come first. When people ask me to come teach them how to do it, my favorite thing to do. Now, I can walk them through how to write your personal story, and I'm working on training programs to get people ready. Because people come to me, and my gift is taking your words. My gift is taking your words and giving them emotion and giving them power. And what a lot of people don't realize is how the tiniest tweak in a story or just moving things around a little bit or changing this word can have a drastic impact on the power of that story. When I see words on paper, it's weird. It's like I don't even know how to explain it. I just start to see where they belong. And, we ought to do this. But that's a more advanced, higher level type of thing. Let's just put it this way. Many people aren't ready. They don't even know how to put the words on paper. So I'm in the process of putting together a system that actually takes you back to where we can make writing fun again and say, let's follow these building blocks. Let me ask you a series of questions to pull these answers out of you so that when you go through these steps about what makes a character, what's a story about, why are you telling it, what happens in this story, I force you to say it in 3 paragraphs with the word count. I have this system so that when you walk away, you lift it up and now you have a story. That's where I'm. Well, I don't know if that really answered your question, but
no, that absolutely does. When you're speaking to a group, what's your favorite topic? I mean, what really?
This recurring theme is embrace what makes you pink. Well, and my favorite topic, that's from a motivational. That's from using the stories to help people meet them in their place of brokenness. I love to get people re-engaged to their jobs, to their life, to their passion, to their purpose. You just wouldn't believe how many people are sitting there waiting to be told that they matter. And we're talking adults. We're talking adults who've lived their whole life perhaps being told they're stupid. Or their whole life I've got a story about walking away from the music and leaving a gift. There's a recurring theme of not doing things in my life. I'm just sharing my pain and hoping it connects to your pain in the audience. Walking away from the music and hiding the gifts that we have because we think they're not good enough or they don't fit or they don't match. And I'll tell you, if you want to put it to a business message, wow, what a mistake to hide your gifts in a crowded market I thought as a kid being different was the worst thing in the world. And so I grew up for most of my life thinking to be successful, thinking to be happy meant you need to look like everybody else. You better fit, you better copy. And now I've learned that being different isn't such a bad thing. In fact, it's everything. I sat on the one thing I had all along that would have made me great. I had it all the way. I'm like Dorothy in her red shoes, bless my heart. I had it all the way back to the beginning. So that's what really charges me up. But I'm also fascinated with anybody who wants to talk about stories and how to use them. And I will never claim to be the business person. Well, I shouldn't put it that way. If I'm going to speak to corporate, for instance, I don't want to be the corporate one in the room. I'm the artist. I'm the subject matter expert. I'm the artist, the storyteller, the weird one coming in cowboy boots and boas singing and doing poetry to just give you another perspective. I mean, I learn from people outside my industry all the time how to be better at my job and better at my craft. And that really ignites me is when people say, how do we take this story and make it better? That's what I know how to do. And it doesn't always have to be a Southern accent in a character.
What's your most embarrassing moment on stage?
Well, okay, that's hard
Good
to say.
question.
No, but
Very good question.
It is a good question, but because I'm so unpolished,
there's a lot of them.
It's
And
like
you embrace it, probably.
I embrace it. So I'm almost waiting for things to go wrong, and the more screwed up I am, or the more I'm talking about muffin tops, it's almost like the more weight I gain. No, seriously, it's really weird. It's the more I connect. So I spend my whole life trying to be embarrassed on purpose. I'm trying to think, not embarrassed, but you know what I mean. I'm trying to think if there's I've fallen going up the steps, headed to the stage. I'll tell you, it's not embarrassing, but it was kind of embarrassing. It put me on the spot. I was giving a speech, and usually I do not use a podium. I don't want to hide behind it. It cuts off how much you can see of a person telling the story. So I had asked for them to move the podium. But apparently, it didn't get on somebody's list in time. But I'm up there. It's no big deal. I'm talking. And here comes this little fella. We're in, like a hotel ballroom. Here's this fella. Picture Tim Conway shuffling along in his little cummerbund and his little name tag. And I don't think he spoke English. And he is focused on his task. And he comes up. I'm speaking to a room of about 500 people. I am we are off.
You're in state.
Yes. He comes up the stairs, onto the stage, starts moving the podium. I mean, it was like on his list. It was like, now is the time to move the podium. And I'm sitting here thinking, I mean, and that's hard because you're thinking of your lines. You're thinking of where you need to go. You're thinking of if you forgot. So there's a million thoughts going through your head. And now I got this Tim Conway dude up on stage. And and the audience is looking at me because they're waiting. That's a hard part about being a speaker, especially a comedian, because they are waiting for you to address the elephant in the room, so to speak. This guy so finally I'm thinking, what do I say? It's not going to be funny enough. I got to address this. I can't ignore it. He's getting me off my game. Finally, I just looked at the audience and I was like, really? And they busted out laughing, which did not deter Tim Conway in the least. He is still working over here. And I looked at the audience and put my finger up like, hold on one moment. I put my microphone down and I went, and together he and I moved the podium off of the stage. I kind of bowed, he kind of bowed, and he shuffled off. And I got back up, picked up my microphone, looked at the audience, and said, I got to do everything around here. They laughed, and we were off. So would you call it embarrassing? I don't know. It was a painful experience for me to go through. So there you go.
It's painful to know what to do in the moment, but it sounds like it played off beautifully.
Well, it is. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure too, especially when they're all looking at you. But the beauty of it is, you can say anything and they're going to laugh.
To me, the beauty of it is that you did it in such a way that he got to save face too.
Yes, yeah.
Do you think he even realized what he was doing?
I don't know. He was in front of an entire room full of people. Maybe he thought, okay, they want the podium moved.
I better do it now.
I better do it now. I don't know.
Or someone could have told him, you didn't get go do it now. Right now.
Come on, she's up there talking. Go do it now.
Maybe he's just a linear thinker.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Step
Bless his heart.
B, C, D.
But the worst thing you can do, I think, is ignore it.
Yeah.
Because the audience is waiting for you to acknowledge. And if you're authentic, you got to acknowledge. One time the lights went off and I went, God, and everybody busted out laughing. The lights came back on. I was like, sometimes he has his own way of shutting me up. And everybody laughed. Lights went off again. They came back on and I looked up in the sky and I went, what a friend we have. And everybody's just, so you get those things. Fire alarms have gone off. I mean, you just have to roll with it and be comfortable enough. The audience loves it because those are the moments that are organic and they know it's real.
Can I tell you a recent example of this that I saw? I don't know anybody's political leanings, but I was watching the town hall debate that CNN held for the Democratic candidates. And I don't know if either of you saw this.
No,
but
I didn't.
I didn't either.
But there was this moment where Bernie Sanders is on stage and the moderator, who, if you watch CNN, was Chris Cuomo. And he asked Bernie something that I thought was totally off the wall. And he asked him, what would your parents think of you if they could see you today?
Oh, they'd be old.
They would be very, very old.
Right.
They would be like a...
What kind of question is that?
I know, right?
Well, it was because they had interviewed his brother earlier in the day, and he had mentioned how, proud their parents were of Bernie and his brother both. And so he asked him, if they were around today, what would they think? And he jumped on that opportunity to use that as a very human moment, and he could have disregarded it, but it was remarkable to me, and it really connected, I think, with a lot of people because he paused and he looked down, and you could see the emotion sort of like come over his face, and he said they wouldn't even be able to believe it. And he told the story about how growing up very, very poor and not having a lot. And it was this moment that he could have brushed off because that's a lot to expose yourself in a moment on national television, but he didn't. He used that. And frankly, I think that probably won him some voters.
Yeah, I don't know why more politicians don't use more stories. Of course, they follow a lot of people who are savvy and advising them, and I think they have different intents and purposes. But somebody tells a story and you connect. It's that connection, heart to heart. It doesn't matter what it is, and it can be somebody I was to get my nails done one day in Fong, who works at my nail salon, or Tony, as his name is now. I mean, we're talking about getting spanked growing up, and I have this bit where I talked about kids getting spanked. How we got spanked in the South, and And I said, when I was growing up, well, it's a bit I won't spoil it, but he said he grew up on a farm in Vietnam and was telling me how the women in the village could spank any kid on the farm. And I was like, oh my gosh, it mirrored exactly
The South.
my story about growing up in the South, and the mama could spank any kid on her property that was misbehaving. That's why we never played at Jimmy Van Cuso's house. His mama could draw blood, not even spill her drink. But so yeah, you connect, and you can be. I mean, that's the core of it all, is that I can connect to a guy who grew up on a farm in Vietnam, and I grew up in the South. It's just amazing. Our stories connect us, and we don't have to have had that experience to find that link in there.
Do you think that's because there really are only so many human emotions?
I think so.
And
I
we
think
all
so.
have them.
I think so.
Yeah.
My marriage stuff goes over the best, laughter-wise, because it's relationships.
Right.
And we all get it.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what kind of relationship you have, we all get the struggles with relationships.
Where would you like to go speak? If you could choose a place to go, where do you think you'd like to go? Where do you think you might have a great impact?
Oh, gosh, I don't know, because I feel like I'm living the dream already now. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that one. I've never thought about where I want to go. I mean, of course, I have dreams of bigger audiences and bigger stages. I mean, it would be cool to say, hey, I got to do it at Carnegie Hall. Of course, I'd probably wig out so much.
What about a TED Talk?
I don't know. I got my own philosophy about TED Talks. I don't know. There are certainly a lot of clients and types of audiences that I want. But this is going to sound hokey, but you can give me 900 lunch ladies in a tiny little town in Texas, and I'll be just as home free as I am anywhere else. You give me, here's really the ideal, is just having an audience that feels it and laughs and follows you and doesn't grade you and critique you and worry that you didn't give them enough notes on a handout. I just want to be, and I think that's kind of my own issue. It's recently I'd said to myself, I just want to be free. I want to be free of judgment, which is so funny because it's what I talk about is fitting in. Mm-hmm. It's still in the core in there somewhere, is I just want to go in front of an audience and I don't want to give a rat's patoot. Mm-hmm. I want to be so free that I'm going to do this my way. And if you don't like it, it's okay. But you got to play by the rules a little bit, because if I came in doing this exactly the way I wanted it to look, I'm not sure anybody would have hired me, because there's a progression. One day it will look different than it does today. But I'm in the speaking business, and you can't just go too far out there and get to work.
If somebody's listening to this and they want to get started, or they want to learn how to tell their story, or they want to tell a story, or they want to do something that they're compelled to do, what are 3 things that you suggest they do to get started? 3 simple things.
I think a blog is a great way to start your story. You don't have to have anybody reading it. It'll just get you used to writing it in small chunks. It overwhelms people because they think, I've got to write my story, and they wake up thinking they got to write a novel. And I say, no, go to the moment. Just write me a bunch of moments, like you're flipping through a scrapbook. Write this moment, and then write that moment, and write that moment. So a blog is a great place to go start putting your words down on paper. And if people start to follow you, great. If not, it doesn't really matter. What else should they do if they want to write their own story? Well, find somebody who's going to encourage you to do it. Find people who join a group, and again, I don't know, are we talking somebody who wants to write their life story for their children? Are we talking, I don't know, it's a blanket
somebody
question.
Who wants to be able to either for sales or for whatever purpose to do those.
Oh, well, here's the hardcore truth. Not everybody likes writing.
No, it's true.
And not everybody's good at it. And, well, it's kind of like this. I told my husband, we need to get the oil changed in the car. He said, well, why don't you buy a manual and learn how to do it? I looked at him like he's crazy. I'm like, I got gifts. I'm invested in me. I don't have time to read a manual and learn how to change oil in my car. I'm going to go to an expert who knows how to do that. If I want somebody to cook my books, I'm going to go find an accountant. Teasing. Teasing. So in some cases, there's some people who aren't going to be able to do it, and they're not going to want to do it. So fine, go get an expert. Get somebody to write it for you. Find a system. There are systems out there that there are some resources that you can learn to tell a good story.
Okay.
But a lot of people think their story doesn't matter. And I would encourage them to write these stories as our legacy. Because once we're gone, the stories go with us. And boy, I wish I had asked my grandmother more stories. I mean, what a gift. I tell people, write it down, put it in a book. Thanks to Create Space, you can get it in a book and not even pay much for it. And leave it so that for future generations because they're fascinating stories that people went through.
Do you think people are losing the touch to be able to tell stories because of technology?
Yes, but I think they're wanting it back. I think because we're losing it, it makes us crave it even more.
Right.
I mean, my who was it? My grandfather's sister, whatever, met when somebody asked her once, "How did you meet your husband?" And what had happened was, she was dating a guy who was in the war, and they would write letters back and forth. And the boyfriend would read the letters to the guy in the bunk beside him. And what happened was they ended up breaking up. And the guy in the bunk beside him said, "Do you mind if I write her?" He began writing, I've got goosebumps. I need to write that story down. That's a good one. He began writing her letters. And when he got out, they were married immediately and stayed married for the rest of both of their lives. Wow. I mean, that's a story that just came out at a family reunion when somebody said, "Y'all ever hear how so-and-so met?" I mean, that's gold. And I think all of us, I don't know, I try as a motivational speaker to figure out what makes people tick at their core. And I think people want to feel valued, and they want to feel like they have a purpose and that they mattered here. And I think, I haven't followed all the way through yet in my mind, I think there's a connection to where we've come from and who our ancestors. I mean, gosh, I can't tell you how many times my kid wants to know. Tell me about the day I was born, Mom. Mm-hmm. Tell me about that day.
Right.
Let's go back to Boone.
Uh-oh, you're going to my college stomping ground. Were you there?
You know, I'll tell you, I've been to Boone.
Uh-huh.
And
why are you going there?
Long story, but I went there to do a due diligence on some real estate.
Oh, okay.
And it wasn't, I don't know. Do you ever go back to Boone? Have you been there in the last 15 years? Mm-hmm. Okay, there was this large group of people that lived on Heavenly Mountain, and they practiced transcendental meditation. And after that place closed down, they were selling it. And so we went out to do some due diligence on that particular piece of real estate. Which
you want a funny story? I mean, I won't go into a story. I'll let you finish.
No, please do.
But my parents bought a place at Blowing Rock.
Oh, okay.
And the trees have been cleared out. And guess what we can see from the front porch?
Heavenly Mountain?
Yep. Wow. We can see that because we were always like, "What's that big area?" And they're like, "Oh, it used to be some place where some cult, and they sold it." I'm sure it's the same.
So in Boone, in college, what were you studying?
I was an English major. And I didn't go to college. I wasn't in school with the intent of even being a writer. I chose English because I didn't know. I thought you went to college to find a husband, and that wasn't working out so well. But
get your MRS.
But people just said be a English major because you can go a lot of different directions with that. I was like, all right.
Good advice.
Isn't that weird? I wish I'd known then. Wow, if I'd known then, I'd take business classes, marketing, woulda, coulda, shoulda, right?
But how much did that help you hone your craft, really?
Well, yeah. I mean, they say that the key to good writing is reading a lot, and I certainly read a lot.
Yeah.
Which of these mantras speaks more to you? I'm going to punch this day in the face.
What now? Okay.
I'm going to punch this day in the face. Or
nothing is ever easy.
The second one. You mean like what I would say?
Yes.
In my head. I would never say, I'm going to punch this day in the face. But I would say, why are y'all laughing? Inside joke?
No,
but I would say
I'm going to tell you in a second.
I would say nothing ever comes easy. I mean, that's true.
Because we have this ongoing debate, and so we just started asking our guests.
Oh, okay. What's the debate?
Well, my mantra for life is I'm going to punch this day in the face.
And mine is.
Oh, see, you mean it in a positive.
Yes.
Oh, now that's great.
Punch this day in the face.
Well, see, I was thinking of it
that
like
too.
a whiner. I was thinking of it like I'm a whiner. Like,
No.
I'm going to punch this day in the face.
I'm going to punch this day in the face.
Oh, yeah. Like, heck yeah.
Heck yeah.
I don't know that I go into it with that much determination. No, I just get knocked down and go, okay, I just got to keep doing this. I'm going to get back up. And what was the other one, mantra?
Nothing is ever easy.
See, and I think that's just like,
It's cop out.
bummer.
Well, you don't get to pick his mantra.
I know, but
Well, but it's not.
he doesn't like mine and I don't like his.
Well, the meaning behind it, though, is that if you are prepared for things to be much harder than you anticipate they're going to be, then you're prepared.
My mantra is don't wait to feel brave. Choose brave. Because if you wait to feel it, it might not ever happen. So today I choose brave. I also have another mantra. If you change your story, you can change your life. If you change your story, you can change your path. If you change your story, you can change your world.
I love
That is my mantra. Well, it took
That's
me
great.
20 years to find it. but-
Isn't that something that we talked about not too long ago? I think we talked about it on one of our podcasts, changing your story. Yeah.
Because it's that a lot of what I talk about isn't story in the terms that we've been talking about today. It's that storyline running through your head.
Right.
Because that does. You know that. I mean, everybody knows that. The power of our thoughts and what we say we can do or what we say we can't do. The story we're writing about other people when they come in, when we write a story about everybody, half the time it's not true.
Right.
That's funny. I was reading something today about.
Did it hurt?
Yeah, it did. It was very painful. You know, whenever I try to learn new things, it's just it gives me a headache. But I was reading something along those lines that this person's child was not good at sports, and she went out on the field one day. I think it was soccer or something. This just happened today, and I can't remember where the hell I read this. But she runs out there. She never scores a point, and she busted out like 3 goals in a row. And of course, everybody's going wild. And she ran over to her mom, and her mom said, "What the hell did you do?" And she said, "I just pictured myself as," and she named some famous sports figure, and she changed her story.
When my son was little, well, he's still only 11, but when he was little, he would do dumb stuff, kind of like me, but he'd do, bang his head against the wall and, run, kids do dumb stuff. And my husband and I would have this just little joke, he'd do something dumb and we go, okay, guess he's not going to be a doctor. And we laugh. Then he'd do something else and we go, okay, so maybe it won't be a college, maybe it'll be trade school. And, and it finally got all the way down to, okay, Inspector 12, somebody's got to inspect underwear at the line. And we're just laughing, having a good time. He's little. Okay, now fast forward. We homeschool. Well, my husband does it all now. He's working on them. They're getting very frustrated. And he said to my son, why can't you get this? I don't know why you can't get this. And my son says, Dad, I'm just not smart. And he said, what would ever make you think that? He said, because y'all call me Inspector 12.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't even remember the last time we'd said it.
Oh.
I mean, that's just crushing. And I'm reading this book called The Healing Code, and it's totally blowing my mind and blowing my life. But the Healing Code says that there are stories and images stored in our cells.
Right.
Yeah.
From childhood, from everything that affect how we react in the world. And there are triggers, stuff we can't even control beneath.
Stuff that we get from, that we inherit even.
Yes, even stuff that we inherit. And that we're walking around with these beliefs that simply are not true. Mm-hmm. From that, and it's not that, you could have had an idyllic childhood, but the way you process the things that happened around you, it could, the book said it, he talks about somebody who the mother said, eat all your dinner or you won't get a popsicle like your sister. And so after digging and uncovering, they find out that all this time she's felt like the mother loved the sister more because she got the popsicle. Mm-hmm. And so every time she would see a popsicle or that color. So we're walking around and we can't, and that is important to say because it kind of threw me a little bit because the book was saying, hey, you positive motivational speaker folks, it's not always that easy to control. A lot of it's buried deeper, but there's a lot above the surface. It's still, I think this way in sales. If I'm going in on that call, I've gotten better at sales simply because I've become more confident and I've changed the story in my head. But if you visualize, I've been reading a lot about these like mirror neurons and I can't get it all straight, but they're saying that the way you feel about somebody is mirrored. Their receptors are picking it up, and that before you say a word, what you feel about them is being transferred through these mirror neurons. And in all these subtle ways that they couldn't even consciously detect. And I was like, oh my gosh, I get now one of the reasons why I'm so effective at what I do. Because from the moment I enter that room, from backstage, and I know it sounds weird, but all up there, I'm telling you stories, I'm giving you messages, and in my mind, I'm telling you quietly, you matter. You do make a difference.
Right.
I respect you. And they're picking up on that. So there is something to what we feed. And a lot of speakers say, how do I motivate people? I was like, well, the first thing you got to do is care about them. Because if you don't care about them, I don't care what word you say. And that's the story that you're writing in your head.
Let's play a game.
So, a couple of the games we play as we wrap up our time here with you, because you obviously have better places to go or more
Not
places
really.
to go.
Yeah, the best Western's calling my name.
Is a game we call Never Have I Ever. It's a drinking game, and normally
I used to play that all the time.
So
In Boone.
we'll
And I'd never done anything, so we won't. That's why those days are a blur. So okay.
So I don't have a Never Have I Ever, but maybe Damon has a Never
You
Have
don't.
I Ever.
You don't have. What a cop out.
I like
She
to make,
skipped right over
I like
herself,
to make
didn't
Damon
she?
go. I like to make Damon go first.
You're the one daring everybody in school to do stuff,
you
and
know
then
that's
sitting
right.
back and watching.
and watching and listening. And
We should have been friends because you were the one quietly spurt. Go on, Kelly, get up on the bar and dance with the band.
yes,
They'll
and then
love
I'd
it.
skirt off to the library and eat
Yes.
my lunch or something.
Oh,
Does everybody
bless
have
your
their
heart.
vodka?
Yeah,
Okay.
we all have vodka.
All right.
Okay. Never have I ever. Oh my God, the one that just popped in my head, I can't say.
I laugh
Okay.
as if I know what that
This
would
is
be,
a-
but
this is
if
a-
it's in your head,
This is a sort of family-friendly show, so
okay.
For all you children who drink vodka out there,
right.
Don't play this game at home alone.
Never have I ever made out in a theater.
Like a movie theater
Yeah.
or the stage theater?
No, a movie theater.
well, I haven't either. I haven't done anything. I didn't have any friends till I was in college. I'm behind the curve.
Well, what do you constitute as making out?
Tongue.
I thought you weren't supposed to, I thought you were only supposed to drink if you had done it.
Oh, is that the rule? That's right. You drink
That
if
is
you've
right,
done
yeah.
it. I drank by accident. Sorry.
I drank because I wanted to drink.
Okay. Sorry.
Well, I don't have anything.
Well, you have
already
some
drank.
you have some overpriced Fiji over there if you like.
I know. I already drank a bottle. Candace is going to have to gamble some more to.
Okay, I got one.
Okay.
All right.
Tagging off of what Damon said, which we probably shouldn't do because that's when that's when we start to go get in the dirt on. Anyway, I have never have I ever.
Never have I ever.
Never have I ever. I have never been caught in a room when somebody was making out or more and had to stay hidden until they were finished.
Oh, thank God I've never done that.
Oh, that would be terrible.
Wouldn't that be terrible?
So because I've never done it, I have to drink, right?
No, if you've done it,
Oh, if
you
you've
have
done
to
it.
drink.
This game is so hard.
It is hard.
That's why it was a good drinking
We can
game.
never
you drink
get a-
if you do, you drink.
No,
if you
I got to
don't.
make a note. We got to take
We
this.
used to drink every time they said who in Whoville at Christmas. The Grinch Stole Christmas. I don't think we ever made it to the end of a movie. We were
We're
pretty
taking
wiped.
this game out. It's too complicated.
Well, especially when you're already drunk.
Okay, Lee, what's yours?
Well, I'll just keep going down this path of never have I ever.
You didn't answer the question.
Oh, had I ever been stuck in a
Well,
room?
we've done one. Now
I know, I'm gonna-
Oh, you're gonna answer the question. Have you been stuck in a
No,
room?
I haven't.
Okay.
But I have walked in. That's awkward.
It is, especially if it's your parents.
Yeah.
That's what
the
happened
worst.
to me.
That's
the
the
worst.
worst. That's
I
scary.
mean-
There's just some things you can't unsee.
Yeah,
No.
That's one of
It
them.
can never be unseen.
No, right. It just changes everything.
It's cost me $10,000
Yes.
to try to get that image.
It's
on
really,
it.
yeah.
Okay, never have I ever. See, I'm so boring. Never have I ever woken up in a blackout doing jumping jacks in the middle of a road.
Oh, that sounds like a personal inside joke. I haven't.
I wish that I had. That would have been fun.
Oh, have you? Have you?
Yes.
Oh, that's funny. Jumping. At least you're exercising.
I know. Right?
Maybe that's what I need. Forget no carbs.
Maybe I need
I'm
to
gonna drink more
forget
vodka.
all this podcast. I'm going to teach you how to lose weight. Wake up after your blackout doing jumping jacks in the median of a road.
See, that so beats the low carb diet.
It does exactly.
Were you taking Ambien?
No, it was years
She
ago.
was Ambien jumping
It
jacking.
was- it
No,
was-
Ambien you eat supposedly.
Yeah, right.
You do Ambien eating.
I know.
Oh, but the fun question though. That was still
My
fun.
mother used to call me on Ambien in the middle of the night.
They say it'll really best you. They say especially you need to go to bed as soon as you take it.
Well, she did, but she'd call me at like 3:00 in the morning, and I knew that she sounded
God, that
asleep.
freaked me out.
The first time it really did, but so that stuff that they say about it's real.
Yeah. Well, our final game, should you choose to play, is
I'm
called
not taking any money out of my wallet.
What's in Your Wallet? For the record, you've already donated to the cause. So we are now up to officially $62.
Yeah,
$62
can you believe
in
it?
donations.
Yes. So what is the cause, y'all?
Just to help us pay for our equipment and,
Yeah.
our hosting
It's
of our
your cause.
It's our cause.
It is.
Well, there's another podcast called Rona and Beverly, and they take donations so that they can go places and
Well, it's
do
kind of
shows
like
and things like that.
who's the punk rock new age singer who did a TED talk on that? Who used to stand? It's
I don't think I've seen
fascinating. You need to find it. I want to say Amanda something, but she used to stand as a statue in New York and get donations for being painted. And she's anyway. Her whole concept, you got to watch the TED talk. I'm skewering it, but was about how she just stopped with her band, stopped charging and let people pay her and gift her what they felt like, and it was pretty cool.
That is
Maybe
cool.
y'all could kickstart campaign this.
Well,
You need to get like a face, a hungry child or something to get donations.
our white bread pieces aren't going to cut it, are they?
I mean, if you're going to say
What
a
about-
cause,
what about
you might
Ace?
want a puppy or something on there.
Maybe Ace is hungry.
Maybe yes, I've been underfeeding my puppy by accident.
Oh no! See, that'll work. That'll work. That'll work. You can
Ace.
put aside like
Poor
instead of
Ace.
number of days since accident, it could be number of days since Ace ate.
Right.
You should
right.
probably
Yeah.
start getting some money and hate mail.
Yeah.
Probably. What are you doing to your dog? You should.
You should give it away.
Yeah.
Don't let it suffer.
Don't let him
funny.
fool you.
What's in your wallets? You get
Yes.
you get people on the podcast. So
Yes.
they open up their wallet.
Open up their
and you can
wallets
take
and
their money.
go. And
No,
go.
it-
No,
it really-
actually,
it really
we
is
just
not
really
about
want you
money.
to empty it out so you can see what's
It's
in it.
really
So we can
about
see what's in
finding
it.
finding out what people carry around with them.
It's like opening up somebody's medicine
Mine's
cabinet, but we
boring.
can't do that.
Mine's boring. Mine's got some Dramamine in it for the plant. Bonine. It's got some lipstick and a Band-Aid. And
Well, at least there's not any Beano.
and there's no condoms in there either.
Well, that's
I'm
good.
a
We had
very boring person. Did somebody pull out?
No, but somebody did pull out like a wad of cash one time. And we were like, got to make a stop on the way home.
We know
She
what's
did not
going on.
donate.
She did not donate. That's why
No.
she's got all that
That's
cash.
right.
Because she's smart like me. She ain't opening
She
all.
hangs up. She
pulling
hangs
out her
on to
wallet.
it.
Yes. Well, Kelly, we've had a great time. Hopefully, this has been well worth all
Yes,
of
it's
the.
fun. I love hanging out with y'all. I wish y'all all the best.
Thank you.
Thank
Keep
you.
on keeping on.
Hopefully, you'll join us again sometime.
Yeah.
If you're ever in
Sure.
Texas.
We do phone interviews too,
Or we can always come back to beautiful Las Vegas.
right?
We could. You got to get me another job here.
I'll do my best.
You got to remember who we are.
I'll start networking.
Of course I will.
Yes. Don't forget about me.
You'll be my agent.
Don't forget about the little people.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
It's
Kelly.
been fun, y'all.
Want to see Lee and Damon live? Go to theindustrypodcast.com and look for collaboration.
Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And remember,
The Industry. What we know is the best podcast you'll ever see.
because you can't see a podcast.